Welcome back to the channel. Today we have a special guest. We're up in a secret place with none other than Mr. McConnell and his pretty epic S13. So what we're doing today is we're going to meet the driver and the car and just find out what his plans are really and see how things are going. Here's Stephen.
Hi guys, how you doing? Welcome to our garage here in sunny Overton. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Steve McConnell. I'm a Scottish racing, drifting, gymkhana driver, competing in various championships. The last year throughout Europe and hopefully going into next season Europe, and we've completed for 3 seasons at the highest level in the UK, being the British Drift Championship and Drift League GB. Also had some success with our gymkhana career, made it to a few international events. Furthest we've been to South Africa competing. We can talk some about that if you want as well. But yeah, I'm a Scottish motorsports driver, and Alistair and the Track Ready team support us.
Aye. So yeah, as he says, we support him. I've known Stephen.
We've known each other for
10 plus years.
Longer than that, like from the Volkswagen days.
Yeah.
We had GTI probably when the first time we met, the Mark 5 Golf GTI.
Yep. And I
was Michelle's, but
yes, I still have the VRS.
We've done a lot of trips together. We used to go to car shows and
we went down to Telford and all that. It was good days.
That was before our kind of motorsport career took off and that.
Yes, yeah, that was before I done it as well actually, because that's before the Fabia went.
Yeah.
A bit nuts. So.
But we've known each other a long time. Formalies have been supporting us for 2 seasons now.
Yes.
Through Alistair's company supplying us specifically with our brake package. So we've had an upgrade Z13 disc and pad package from EBC. So they're running their turbo discs with a yellow stuff pad.
Yep.
Ran that all round in the car for the last 2 seasons, and it's been, for what we've been using the car for, very good. However, we are just back from a trip to the Nürburgring and we are going for a big brake kit on the car. But you've also helped us out with things like the suppression systems, a lot of the safety stuff that's involved in running a car like this. So they've been vital to helping us do what we do on track.
It's quite important, the brakes and the suppression kits, I have to say. Like
well, I hope never to use the suppression kit.
No.
Brakes, we definitely use them. We went to the Nürburgring a trip 2 months ago, and that's a story in itself, but we had a great time, came back, and I would really like to go drive it myself. Track I've never driven, we were actually at Spa as well. I would like to drive the 2 tracks. This isn't the perfect car for it, but I did make the decision that I would like to take the car there.
That would be quite cool. That would be quite cool.
And it wouldn't take an awful lot, albeit as a full focused pro spec drift car, it wouldn't take much. It really, like, we took it to Crail to test it on to see if it can do grip driving, and the brakes were the thing that let it down. Just because of the power the car's running, you're going into corners at 140 mile an hour, having to slow down to 50 several times throughout a lap, and the brakes just weren't up for it. But with a decent set of brakes, potentially front rear anti-roll bars, and really just an alignment after that, it will be able to go and do track days with the LSD that's in it.
Yeah.
So I would like to take it to the Nürburgring next year.
Comment down below, Stephen, do it.
I don't comment the times though. 18-minute lap.
Yeah, we'll keep that one secret. What I'll do is I'll speed it up and make it look like you're faster.
I'll hope to. We're going to do a brake upgrade in the car. It's, with the time of this being filmed, it is kind of mid-October. We're hoping to get an upgrade done in the next couple of weeks and have one last out in the car, possibly a not-kill day just before the winter comes, and after that we're going to give the car a refresh before we go into next season. Next season plans are a little bit up in the air at the moment, but we will have an application in come the end of this month for a full season of Drift Masters, so 6 rounds, 6 European rounds next year. So things are about to get very, very busy.
Yes, well, I can imagine. Certainly the lead up from your run out Mandela Park, that was quite hectic. I remember that was quite a mad dash.
There were a big push on the car to get the car ready for that. That was a big reveal last year that like we were the first Scottish team to get into the European series, and currently it is the top series in the world, Drift Masters Grand Prix. So we had an application for a wild card at the end of 2023 and kept that big secret for 6 months, where we managed to do all the necessary upgrades to the car pretty much in secret before revealing that we were going to be the first driver involved in it.
I knew really quite early on before that.
we originally were hoping to do 3 rounds last year, so we had an application in for the Irish round, the Latvian round, which is Riga, and the Polish round in Warsaw for the final. The way the year panned out, we never managed to secure a space for the Latvia and Poland round, just because of how popular the series is, and you're now getting drivers coming internationally. You've got Adam LZ coming, and drivers for all around the world. Josiah for Canada.
The Japanese
man Mike Woodette. So you've got and these are all Red Bull drivers, Monster Energy drivers. They're not just your local lads for Scotland.
Local lads that has a garage. And a very, I've already commented, a very neat and tidy garage. Everything's really nicely positioned on the shelves.
It's actually quite a bit of a mess now, but I'm quite OCD. You need to be, I think, when you everybody who does this sport is kind of all the same. They're all slightly in the spectrum somewhere.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, certainly. To compare yourself to someone like Adam LZ or something, like a garage to this, to what he'll have something bigger than what I have for my workshop.
So when we go to events, and I never plead poverty. Like we do require sponsors to do this. It's a good job, but it's not run a professional race team money. So I never like to plead the poverty, but we do rely on sponsorship to be able to do what we do. But when we turn up to events, we're turning up with the Transit, the trailer, this car, a gazebo, branded gazebo. We look as professional as we can, but these guys are pulling up in a truck.
You got Peter
Winsink pulling up.
Two Supra GRs.
They bring 2 brand new Supras just in case one breaks.
In an articulated lorry with a full working workshop.
The thing that sits for me, I've been in some of these lorries, and you go in and just simple things like the kitchen that's inside it is nicer than my kitchen in my house.
It just shows you the difference in level of, from us doing like Driftland to you going out to Mandela Park on a Drift Master level.
That's when it all started for us. We've been doing this since 2016. Always been into motorsport and been involved in motorsport. I'm 35 now, so we started really when I was 21-year-old. Started with drag racing, worked our way into auto solos, auto testing, and then we've done a bit of sprint series stuff as well. So with kind of some cool cars, S2000s, Evos. Never done anything overly competitive until we got into drifting. That was randomly just because my girlfriend was doing photography for Driftland, and we went up to spectate, and I knew a couple of guys that were on the circuit and jumped out with them. And because I came from racing at like Knockhill, I couldn't believe that you were allowed to drift a track. Like, you're allowed to step a car up out of Knockhill, but you're not allowed to drift.
Yeah, you can't.
We just thought drifters were hooligans at this point, so and they are, and it's great.
It's a hooligan sport, and as I was explaining to my dad, the kind of difference in spec. You got your drifting is actually like literally the cheapest sport in some retrospect.
I still tell people it's the cheapest sport you can get.
It is, like,
you can still do, although the way the world's went since COVID, which sucks for everybody, but the drifting to me is still the cheapest sport that you can get in. You can go you can still go and buy £1,000 E. Used to be 36, but you can still find a £1,000 E46. Pay your mate £100 to weld the diff, fit a hydro, and then go and take tyres from your local garage and go have fun.
Well, I built my BM. I built for under £2,000.
Yeah,
that's what the build is currently sitting at. That's without I've got a few other things that are going to take it a bit higher.
Well, that's how it started for us. As soon as I caught the bug, I went straight out. But there were several ways to get into it, and maybe the way I done it wasn't exactly the best way. We'd dive in straight in because there's Driftland offer like packages. You can go up and you can learn to drift. And the way we ended up doing it is we went out and bought Stitch Steve's E36R at the time. Fairly basic setup. Hey Bruce, fairly basic setup, but at the time it had like coilovers, lock mods, a hydro fitted, welded diff. It's everything you kind of needed to start in the sport. And we took that car. Well, we ultimately took that car all the way to Gymkhana Grid in South Africa.
Yep, I remember that.
So that car started from a basic spec car into, well, it was a pro-am spec car, like when we were competing at British Drift Championship with it. But we started basically from the kind of lowest spec, and because of my nature, because what happens, you do one competition, you end up getting a good result, you get the bug for it, and you just start spiraling out of control.
Yeah, I remember it quite well, and you will see it in a minute probably, but Stephen, what's the back sticker say?
Oh, we've always had financial mistake on the car. It's kind of signature trademark.
Yeah.
We'd put it on it, I can't even mind exactly how it started, but when we were sticking the car up for maybe one of the first SDC rounds we'd ever been to, put the sticker on for a laugh, but the car ultimately became known for it.
It's kind of your trademark, not just your 313.
Yeah.
The financial mistake is the trademark.
Yeah, that's 100%, because the BMW was road legal for a long time as well, so the amount of attention it used to get and tags online when it was on the road and pictures that went viral just because of this financial mistake sticker. So everybody knows it for that, and even the S13 has got that sticker on it. Yeah. Because it's not a lie, it's
funny. It's a good joke. It's a good joke.
There's loads of people that take offence to it though, and they're like, "Oh, it's not a mistake, is it? You clearly passion," and a lot of people take the hump for it, but like,
people
it's
have
just
a joke.
That's just people.
Exactly. So, well, as you described, you went to South Africa for the World Gymkhanas. Can you tell everyone what your BM spec was, just on a slight, engine? You'd think, and what you went up against.
Well, at the time we were running the M52 B28 engine that was in it, so 2.8 E36. So that one I know made 205 horsepower and 220 pound-foot of torque. For going there, we did a run. No, wait, actually, we didn't. I was going to say we ran nitrous. I ran nitrous after it.
Yes.
We never put the nitrous in for going to South Africa. I know. I couldn't remember. That's right. We never ran the nitrous for South Africa.
There you go.
Maybe
should have.
I think we never had time because the car literally had to get put in a container, and then it was just under 2 months it would take to get there. And then Monster Energy had paid for being like a small team to fly in. But the cars we went up against the likes of Ken Block, which everybody knows who Ken Block is.
Yep.
He's the reason personally that I even got into that sport in the first place. For racing at the local Scottish Gymkhana level. And then you had things like the Peter and Oliver Solberg, World Rally Cross drivers.
The Solberg's a name I grew up knowing. Like rally for me, bar Colin McRae, watching him, and it was actually watching the Solberg boys rallying, and I'm just sitting there when I was just this little tiny tot. I'm like, Dad, I want to be a rally driver.
It was amazing to meet these people and that. You had Daigo Sato, like we was competing in our class, so again somebody I've looked up to, only watched in YouTube videos, and then you rock up to an event like that and you're pitted next to these kind of guys, so it was very, what is it, a small fish in a big pond.
That was the underdog card. That's not even.
We qualified
close.
I think seventh, and I think ultimately we took either, I believe it was 9th place. So in 2018 we were ranked 9th in the world for Gymkhana racing and wheel-wheel drive.
Qualify, was it 11th? Was it not 11th you qualified and you pulled up to 9th?
I'll look at it later. Kind of remember 7th, but
I remember there was a 7th. I can remember if you were 7th overall.
It was driver number 7. I know that.
But and what was I remember the car well that you were put up against, and it was something like 800th of a second or
800 horsepower Mustang. That's what then get televised, so that the event itself was televised.
The Mustang, it was like 800,000 horsepower car. This was mental.
I can't remember how much we lost it by as well, but it
was literally 700th of a second difference,
which sucked as well. And the best it is, it's all in the lead up. So every Gymkhana battle is always like, it starts with a drag race, so there's always a long, maybe 1/8 of a mile into the actual course. So everything, it sucks. It sucked at that point because we were always an underdog, and you were always in a position where the car's going to accelerate you, and the rest of the run you're going to spend up making up time, which challenges you and pushes you in the right ways. But for a long time, we were the underdog, and to be fair, even at this stage where we're going to Drift Masters, we're still an underdog at this level, and to be fair, some will say that I've had my best results competing as an underdog.
It's this old story, sometimes everyone likes an underdog story. We've moved more inside. It was a bit windy. So we were talking about your South Africa experience.
Yeah, I think we covered a lot of the stuff about getting the car there and the kind of spec of the car, but yeah, that was probably to date one of the kind of most special events that we've done. Just even the fact that like big company like Monster Energy shipping your car international, it was definitely the most special thing that's happened to us. We've been then lucky enough to get involved in the last year of Gymkhana Grid, which was 2019. So that year we weren't driving, but we were meant to be. We weren't basically, we never won the qualifier. So that's how Gymkhana Grid works, is each country around the world or specific locations will have a qualifier on, and it's like a round of Gymkhana. Whoever wins that gets the sponsorship, in a sense, the golden ticket to be sponsored for the World Finals. We didn't win it in 2019, but we were runner up, and what had ended up happening is there were a company down south called Zero EV that were building the Testliner, it was at the time. So it was an R32 Skyline, but with a Tesla motor and running gear in it.
And there you go.
So what that year actually, we ended up, during the Gymkhana event for that, we flew to Poland to work for that team. But it was very close, we were actually meant to be driving at that event, because the owners of Zero EV, we were racing at Santa Pod for one of the normal Formula G rounds, and while we were down there competing in the E36, they were testing the Testliner, and I knew the owner and actually knew the driver, Andrew James Stevens, that was currently driving the car, and they were out setting times in it, but he was involved with the build of the car as well, but he wasn't bonding that well with it, wasn't setting great times, and he'd actually asked us, can you drive this just to see what you think, because it's kind of handling like a piece of shit, then it's just not going well for them. So I took it a run down at Santa Pod and actually gelled quite well with it. It's like a go-kart, drive it, accelerate with your right foot, brake with your left foot, 2 pedals, then a stick for forward and reverse in the middle, and that is it. Still had a hydro, but it disconnects the drive, so like as soon as you pulled the hydro, it would disconnect the drive of the motor, so it had some sort of clutch system, and I don't actually know exactly what the system was. But basically we were able to give them a lot of feedback on the car and what I think they needed to change about the car, and ultimately we'd set a better time, and Andrew James Stephen, who was the chosen driver for Monster Energy at that point, asked us to drive the car just because he thought it would stand a better chance with us driving it, but Monster had already changed all of their, they'd already produced all their media stuff, so that the flyers and banners for the event had already been produced. So we never got to race that year. That was ended up being the last Gymkhana Grid. So we made it to the South Africa round in 2018. Went to Poland in 2019, and it worked for that crew. And then when we finally got this car, which was then going to be, finally we had the competitive car. Because I'm like, if we had this in South Africa,
that would have been,
a very different result.
Yes.
I don't know what it would have been, but it would have been very different.
Yes.
But we took this car, so after COVID 2021 we got this car, and the European qualifier for what was going to be the LA round, so they were going to run at Irwindale in Los Angeles, was announced that the qualifier for Europe, they weren't doing it because of where it was going to take place, the finals. There was only one qualifier in Europe, and it was in Belfast. So not long after getting this car, we made the trip over, and we ended up winning that event. Took first place, and not just by a little bit as well. I can't remember the times exactly, but we were like 4 seconds a lap.
That's a big gap.
And unlike traditional Gymkhana, that was actually Gymkhana stages is what they were then changing the formats of the events to, because historical Gymkhana is 2 cars, 2 identical tracks. You go out, set a time, swap it over, and then do it again, and it's your total time.
Yeah.
Whereas the Gymkhana stages, they were wanting to mix up a mix of sprints along with the Gymkhana, so that was actually just a 1 circuit, and it was timed runs per car. So the way that worked is you actually had a stage, so you had a sprint stage which was about a mile long, where you were going around the Econ Centre in Belfast, and it was the grounds were massive, so you had a full lap round about this whole centre for various obstacles, but high speed, so up to maybe like 90 mile an hour for like like sprinting Gymkhana's fast.
That is fast, yeah.
So then at the very end of it, it linked it a Gymkhana course, and you had obstacle racing. But they done that in over something like a 70 to 80 second lap. We ended up like 4 seconds ahead with this car in the end. Ultimately, we bet the 4-wheel drive car as well. There were 4-wheel drive cars competing there, so Gymkhana. We've got another bloody noise as well there. Welcome to the countryside.
Yes, yes, Scotland.
Oh no, if it's not the weather, it's the fucking neighbours cutting down trees.
Head for the grey cloud, Scotland.
But this car, like, historically Gymkhana set up into classes: front-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, and four-wheel drive.
Yeah.
So the likes of when we did go to South Africa, we weren't competing directly with Ken Block and that. They were in their own class.
Was he in the Unicorn?
Unicorn. I've got 40s literally sat inside the E36. E36 from basically built out of Driftland in Magellan, and I've got 40s he's sitting in the car with the Unicorn right by our side, pulling up to the same racetrack we're all going on to.
Man,
so
that would, to me, now, especially more than now, you know, that's like. That's so
I know, like what happened is, so we went over, won that event, and Monster had, so basically since it's not actually been, a lot of this was always kept under secret, especially when it was a South Africa round, but since it's not happening we can talk about it, whereas we were sworn to secrecy with these things. But Monster Energy had allocated 25 grand for us and a team to go to California, would have been at the end of 2021. So that was sending the car over to the west coast of America, so it's a big trip with a lot of expense to get the car.
Imagine that's not cheap getting out there.
It was 9 grand for in 2018 to get the car to South Africa and back. I can only say that because it was paid for by them. But it was going to be closer to about 15 to 20 to get the car there and back, because you can either sail the full way, or you can go east coast and either train it or truck it. But that was what was going to happen. And then, unfortunately, COVID struck again, and there were more lockdowns for that year, and it ultimately cancelled it. And at that point, Monster ended up selling Gymkhana Grid, and they sold the rights to Hoonigan,
who are now bankrupt. So basically, the whole Gymkhana scene is slightly fell in its arse a wee bit. Yeah, it's a shame about the Unicorn going.
I know. Well, ultimately, it will live on, because all the guys that are doing the YouTube videos are still out there doing stuff.
Yeah.
It's just it's hard to keep the brand alive, and the brand ultimately really was Ken Block.
And Leah never took much. Well, she did a wee bit.
She's out racing now.
Yeah, well,
she's kind of took the mantle on board now. And
well, she's in the Williams F1 team, and I reckon she might be the first female in the main F1, because I think she's going to piss all over.
Well, she's got in a she's got a lot on her shoulders.
I think she's going to piss all over her competition in the female division. It sounds, you know. Well,
that was one thing that actually ultimately got talked about, was it last year, 2022, I think it was estimated, or 2023, where they almost, Hoonigan were going to run a memorial event, and they were talk about getting basically all the current Gymkhana drivers to that event and stuff like that. So there was still a bit of hope in it, and ultimately there'll be more events in the future. There's been a big shake up in everything, because drifting culture was the exact same in that as well, where the BDC, which was historically for 15 years, was the Premier Championship. And ultimately that ended up getting under during COVID as well.
A lot of things did, yeah. Motorsport kind of died for those 2 years, really.
And it's an expensive sport, so keep in mind, as much as we try to look professional and stuff like that, it's a hobby for 99% of the people that do it. Even when you watch British touring cars and that, most of those cars, people don't realise that they're rented cars for the weekend.
Yeah,
so it's
usually about 5 or more of the teams are actually professional, and the rest are just
I know, so most people are normal people that work normal jobs, and that's where it's been hard, especially since COVID, through the cost of living, where a lot of sports have took a big hit. And unfortunately it's the same across pretty much every type of sport, not just motorsport that you find. So there has been a big shake-up, but it's been a time of tremendous opportunity, because it's then made way for things like Neil's KD Customs Winter Series, and that's had massive success because of that. Let's go back to taking sub 300 horsepower cars and practicing them over the winter when we didn't go through tyres.
I quite like the idea. Like I want to do something like that, but Neil's kind of already beaten me to it, obviously, so I can't really just copy him.
Well, there's plenty of opportunity there for stuff. Ultimately, it was James Stephen that was running things like the Gymkhana events and stuff like that as well. But there's loads of opportunity out there. But in terms of total, I don't know how to really put it, but in terms of the British pro class scene, there has been a big downturn and a lot of guys unfortunately having to sell up. And that is where I talk about this car in terms of being sponsors that help us being able to do it and being able to actually keep the dream alive. But plans for next year, like that's kind of.
We've got ideas there.
Our plans for next season are we're applying for Drift Masters. I think we'd covered that.
Yeah, we have covered that.
And we're just basically going to see how that goes. Last year, because to get the car up to spec at Drift Masters, the big push was on the fuel system. A lot of safety kind of stuff as well, but the fuel system was the biggest because we had to go for an FIA ladder fuel cell, and we switched the car on to ethanol. So the car's making close to 800 horsepower on ethanol. So she's fairly competitive.
Big number, that's a big number.
For what she's going up against, there's guys running 1400s, but the average is probably about the 900 mark, so the car's fairly competitive for where it's at now. We were talking about, it is, not a lot of people know it, but it is an unopened engine, that 2J, that particular one. So we were potentially going to strip the engine down, do engine work. But we're going to basically, the funds that I personally have got, we're going to keep for basically to fund the season. So the car's running reliable now, we've kind of sorted a lot of the wee niggles from these big upgrades and everything's running great. So we'll basically just, the engine's at a stage where it's right on the limit of what you should be able to take. So we'll just see how that goes. Rear end is something that I would like to ultimately do at one point. But we're going to refresh a lot of things in the car over this winter, along with the brake upgrade, and down the line we will be forced into putting a quick change rear end on it and upgrading it to a winter setup in the backup as well. Along with, there's some things that are in the background to do with sponsorship and upgrading the management system in this, as a new upgrade ECU, screen, all the management stuff like keypads and stuff like that.
Nice.
So
I do like the keypads.
Yeah, we're still operating old toggle switches and stuff like that.
I really like toggle switches. I
like the simplicity of it because you can jump in this car and it's got the fancy Link ECU, with Link dash, so everything that you need is digitally displayed on that dash. But ultimately, how you operate the car is literally a master toggle switch, and then I have 3 switches in the car, which is for wipers. I do have a set of manual fans over power steering and oil cooler. Not that they're needed, the ECU controls the cooling of the coolant radiator, but I do have a manual switch for fans in the front, and I have a manual switch for the internal fans in the car, the heater matrix fans. But 3 switches in the car, and that's it.
That's all you need.
3 pedals, steering wheel, gear stick.
3's the magic number.
But when I was going to do a 313 joke, we will not.
As long as it was a bad dad joke.
Well, my dad's, so I'm getting it.
Oh, there you go,
that's why I would maybe not possibly touch on as well, but 313 is the brand that we represent. We started it, ultimately why I started it is because I always used to race under number 13, but when we made it to kind of professional British drifting level, when the likes of BDC, 13, by the time we came in there were already hundreds of drivers, so 13 was taken, and we ultimately ended up picking the number 313. I am a big Eminem fan in that as well, so there's got some roots for that as well.
Welcome to 313,
everybody get your hands up. But that's the brand we've tried to create, so we have it on the car, that's the merchandise that we sell, it's 313 merchandise, hoodies, t-shirts, hats, and it's simple things like that when we're at events, try to sell that kind of helps bring in a bit of income to actually keep doing the sport, which people can see that as well, because like at events people are seeing normal people there and seeing our merchandise there, and it's something they can take home for events and know that they're actually supporting drivers like that as well. It's one really good thing is that drifting's got the best fans as far as I'm concerned. I've
noticed that a lot, certainly when I've done events and been at events, everyone's really friendly, they're quite chatty.
Yeah, it's got the best competitors as well, because any other forms of motorsport we've done, drifting's, or any other forms of motorsport we've done, if you were out when we were racing, most people just think that's one less person to worry about. With drifting, is everybody helps each other out as much as possible, because it is a lot of these key people have came from grassroots racing. Everybody's doing it off their own bark with family and friends, so when something goes wrong, everybody tries to help out each other as much as possible. And even that works its way into the pro level, which is nuts, because at pro level you've got sponsorship on the line and money ultimately on the line, and you still find guys going and helping the other team. You see family members going and helping the other team, even though they're going to meet each other at one point in the competition and stuff like that. So, but it speaks a lot to me about what drifting's like and why people should get involved in it.
Yeah, like, you know, for the example of people helping, Stephen being at Mundello Park, he had some engine issues, and it was Connor Shanahan.
Yeah, it was at Shanahan's. That issue in particular was we had coil pack failure, and we'd lent some coil packs out ourselves as well already, and we never had 6 coil packs. And because the issue was only happening under boost when we were actually on the track, we couldn't actually diagnose in the pits which one was faulty. So just even simple things like that, like we went to Jack Shanahan and asked if we could borrow a set of coil packs. They had spares on the cuts at the time. We do know we've always get 12 coil packs on us, but just simple things like that you can go up, and if there's something, it's always the thing you don't bring that you end up needing, but that's guys that are competing at a professional level, and the likes of Connor's competing in FD in America.
Red Bull and,
you know what I mean? And these guys are still helping you out and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, it's a more of a sociable sport that will help each other out instead of one of these ones where you're actually not enemies, you know.
No, 100%. And I hope it always stays that way.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be hard as well, because you do like the kind of heat of the moment, get tea sometimes and that, but like you find yourself, if you're on track and you can see somebody's got issues, for a second you're almost thinking, going like, oh, that could be an easy step onto the top 16 if you're in the top 32, but it's not in our nature, and it's not in our team's nature as well, because we go away with a great team. We've got guys that work as full-time mechanics for us, social media, we're basically a kind of full setup when we go. We've got full-time spotter and stuff like that as well when we go away, so there's always a big group of us, and it enables us to go to events and run a car like this. So going out, and the driving's probably one of the smallest actually parts of the whole weekend, really, in terms of the amount of time you spend doing it, but it's the times in the pits and getting the car prepped, and ultimately because of the nature of the sport, dealing with repairs, breakages and dealing with crashes.
It's a cutthroat sport.
It's non-contact, but I've yet to go to a round that's non-contact.
Non-contact. But yeah, it is a very cutthroat sport, you know. There's no room for error, and if you get to the line, and it's for people that don't know, if you get to the line and you've got engine issues, you literally have to go, as you knew yourself. Yeah,
that's it. Simple things as well, like we have Chris at Dynatune that supports us. He looks after the car in terms of the management side of it, maps the car, does a lot of the electronics, and if he's not there personally around, he'll always be there in terms of, if we've got an issue with the car, we can plug in the laptop straight into Link ECU, load up, it's not TeamViewer we use, but a similar app, and he can log in remotely into the car, make changes, diagnose what the faults are and stuff like that. But yeah, oddly, in terms of sending the cars, we don't run any limits on this car. So I have feedback of everything on that dash, and I have limits in terms of if I get low pressures or high temperatures. I have the dash lighting up like a Christmas tree to tell me that, but ultimately I don't have anything actually limiting the car. So if you've made it to a final and you've already done the first half of the battle and you're going out and my temps are high, it's kind of on me to make the decision of, do we run the car? But if you're in the final, you're always going to run the car. You ultimately, to compete professionally, you need to drive the car like you can afford to fix it. So with things like that, it's a case of get out and send it. Yeah,
I've done that. Not Driftland.
Doesn't it always pay off?
If you see the video, I'm sitting there driving, I could feel and hear it vibrating. I was like, something's not right. Should I go in? And then I just said,
I wonder if a clutch kick will help it.
Send it, so I pull the hydro in there, clutch kick is just bang, and then it's the previous video.
Prop delete, didn't you?
Oh, it was a complete prop delete. Yeah, it was not attached at all to the gearboxes.
Rather dangerous. Especially when we're talking about that as well, with things like prop loops coming into place. That's something you'll probably see in a lot of drift series. They're going to introduce prop loops because of the amount of props that are failing. It's a common occurrence in drifting, and it's very dangerous when it goes wrong.
That can flip.
I've seen them come through the tunnel and nearly take folks' legs off.
Yeah, so, or if the prop drops down, it'll hit and
that's it as well.
Pull the back end of the car up and over you go. Got a stoppie that you don't want to be having.